Toru is a weak man who couldn't save his sister from getting clapped by a random psycho. Disgusted by his weakness, he joins a prestigious academy so he can get revenge, but when he was forced to live with the most popular baddie, he decides to get stronger than Gojo and claps cheeks along the way.
Aren't you taking this a little too fast? We just met this morning!
It was the first day of the academy, and within the first minute of entering, a cute girl, Imari, greets him, and as they walk towards the campus, they bond over the fact that they're both new students in this prestigious academy. However, when they attend the entrance ceremony, a member of the school board, Sakuya, welcomes them and drops a bombshell on them. She announces that before they can join the academy, they have to undergo the school's tradition, which is to battle and defeat the person next to them, with the loser having to leave the academy. The students are shocked by the announcement and express how they refuse to partake in it, but Sakuya makes it clear that they either fight or leave. With his new friend being the person next to him, Toru stands up and asks to change his duel partners, but Imari tells him not to mock her and to start taking her seriously. Sakuya starts the battle, and a white-haired baddie wastes no time harnessing her blaze in the form of dual blades. She goes against her partner in a battle of blazes, and when the others see this, they have no choice but to partake in it as well. It turns into total chaos as everyone starts battling each other with their unique blazes. But while watching the battles, it reminds Toru of his dark past. As his partner, Imari declares that she has something to accomplish, so she refuses to back down from Toru and calls for her blaze, which is a sword. She demands that Toru call his blaze, but he ignores her, so she goes on the attack. With his bare hands, Toru deflects and defends himself effortlessly against Imari. Suddenly, an axe flies their way, but Toru deflects it to save him and Imari. When Imari looks down, to her surprise, she sees a shield on Toru's hand, and he tells her that his blaze is a shield, which makes him an anomaly among other blaze users, who usually have weapons as their blazes. Imari calls him out for his motives to join the academy and goes for the attack. But in that moment, Toru sees his dark past again and blocks Imari's attack. In his fist, he channels energy into it and blasts her away, showcasing his belief in equal rights and lefts. Just then, Sakuya calls for the end of the battle and declares that whoever loses has to go home. Afterward, it amazes Imari how no one is physically hurt from the battle, and Toru tells her that their blazes don't hurt physically, as they come from the soul. Before bidding farewell, Imari wishes Toru the best of luck and tells him to never lose. Later, on his way to class, Toru walks into his old friend, Aoi, who yaps about how they are now Sakuya's lab rats. He believes that since their blaze powers come from Lucifer being injected into them, they are now Sakuya's test subjects. Once they get to class, they take a seat, but they all have their eyes locked on the silver-haired baddie who just walks in. Aoi asks Toru if he knows who she is, and he tells him that he doesn't. But to his confusion, the girl recognizes Toru, bows down to him, and sits right next to him. She starts staring at Toru intensely, but every time he tries to talk to her, she looks the other way. Just then, their goon material homeroom teacher, Rito, pops up and starts yapping nonsense before asking the students to introduce themselves. When it's time for Toru to introduce himself, the teacher recognizes him as the irregular who has a shield and is a topic among the teachers. Then, the silver-haired girl introduces herself as Julie, and she looks at Toru for a second before quickly looking the other way, which confuses Toru. The teacher introduces the school system where the students will be put in duos and that they will do everything together with their partner and even live together. A fellow student, Tomo, asks the teacher about the system's goal, and Rito explains that since they will join a special force full of duos in the future, the school wants them to get used to having a partner all the time. Then, she informs them that their duos will be picked at the end of the week, but in the meantime, they will all be assigned to a temporary duo, and that person is the person sitting beside them. Toru is in shock to hear that he's pairing with Juliet for the foreseeable future, and Rito teases him not to start clapping her clam when they live together. In disbelief, Toru calls out the absurd system, but Rito calmly tells him that in that academy, everything is absurd. That night, Toru gets kicked out by Aoi from his room, and he tells Toru to man up and sleep in his own room. Toru then heads to his room, thinking of what he should say to Juliet, but when he steps inside, she's not there, and he expects that she's sleeping in another room with her fellow girls. However, to his shock, Juliet pops up wearing nothing but her revealing pajamas, which shocks Toru. After calming down, they reintroduce themselves, and Juliet tells Toru that she remembers his name easily as she's from Gimel, a part of Northern Europe, where Toru's name reminds her of the Norse thunder god, Thor. She crawls closer to him, and he calls her out for staring at him earlier. Julie tells him that she's very interested in him, and while he thinks that he managed to already bag a hot baddie, Julie tells him she's interested in the fist technique he used earlier. Toru tells her that his technique puts a strain in his body, so he doesn't want to teach her out of fear it might hurt her. Julie feels disappointed to hear that, and suddenly feels sleepy, saying that the time difference is affecting her sleep schedule. She falls asleep on his body with no signs of waking up, and Toru has no choice but to pick her up and take her to her bed. The next morning, Toru makes himself some apple tea, and when Julie wakes up, she shows interest in what he's drinking. He makes her a glass, which she enjoys a lot, and Toru wishes that they could work together as a duo until they get assigned their actual partners in the future. Some mornings later, Toru wakes up to find Julie, looking like a snack, in his bed, and not in her own bed, but when he confronts her, she simply doesn't see anything wrong with it. Later, in the cafeteria, they get unwanted attention from people who found out about them being roommates. They sit down to eat, and while Julie has a balanced breakfast, Toru opts for a breakfast full of meat. Just then, two busty babes, Tomo and Miyabi, ask to join them. Toru accepts, and the first thing Tomo does is act like an annoying mother, scolding Toru for eating like a slob. But Toru simply expresses his love for meat. Just then, he makes eye contact with Miyabi, and she quickly hides her face from Toru. Tomo informs him that Miyabi is shy around dudes, and it reminds Toru of how Julie used to be. Then, Tomo talks about her main concern with them being roommates, fearing that Toru must have been clapping Julie like rabbits.
Stop it. Get some help.
Julie cheerfully assures them that they have nothing to worry about and mentions how Toru is a nice man who cuddles her all night. But hearing that makes Tomo misunderstand and call Toru a degenerate. Later, in class, Rito-sensei delivers a lecture on Lucifer, a mysterious force that enhances physical capabilities. Once an individual's soul manifests this power, it's called a blaze, and those who can wield it are known as the Exceed. Blaze weapons typically take the shape of swords, lances, or similar tools, but some, like Toru, are exceptions. Everyone looks at him with a bombastic side eye, still wary of his relationship with Julie, especially Tomo. Then, Toru explains to Julie that Tomo misunderstood her earlier comment, mistakenly thinking the two were playing hide the pickle, and Julie promises she'll try to clear up the misunderstanding. The lecture continues on the concept of Lucifer evolution and how using their blaze often will make them stronger. Rito announces battle training afterwards and warns them that if they don't get stronger one level higher by the end of the year, they will be expelled. Afterward, Tomo comes to beg and apologize to Toru for jumping to conclusions and calling him names. In an over-the-top show of remorse, she drops to her knees, but Toru, being the ultimate Chad, tells her to stand up as things look like a dom and sub relationship between them. Realizing they're attracting attention, Tomo tries to recover with dignity but ends up stumbling into a position Johnny Sins put your mom in last night, giving the people around them the wrong impression. Julie walks in on the scene and, despite the plotful angle, assumes they're just practicing martial arts. Later, in the dojo, Julie and Tomo spar, drawing the attention of the class thanks to their impressive battle and form. Aoi explains that Tomo uses her family's renowned Tomobana martial arts style. Curious, he asks Toru what style Julie practices, but Toru admits he's never asked. He plans to pair with Aoi for upcoming events, prompting a challenge as Aoi wants to test his strength firsthand. Meanwhile, Miyabi brings towels for the girls, and Julie invites her to be her next sparring partner. Miyabi declines, blaming her lack of skill on a less than convenient physical attribute. Tomo advises her to study others' techniques instead, directing her attention to Toru and Aoi's ongoing match. Julie seems unimpressed as she's seen what Toru can really do. That night, while Julie is showering, Toru waits outside. They later drink tea together, and Toru asks her where she learned how to fight. To his amazement, Julie tells him she's largely self-taught. She then compliments both him and Aoi for their strength during their duel. and Toru reveals that both he and Aoi were from the same dojo growing up. The week passes smoothly, as they continue their training and development as a duo before heading to their end. On the final day of the week, Toru tells Aoi he wants to become his official partner as his time as Julie's temporary partner has come to an end, but Aoi gives no clear reply. Then, as Toru and Julie walk home, he thanks her for being his temporary duo and asks if she's considered a new one. Julie says she'll ask Tamo tomorrow. Just then, cherry blossoms begin to fall, and Julie reflects on how this is their second time seeing them together. She remembers her first day at the academy and how Toru stopped in his tracks to stare at her. She says she's happy they've shared the moment again, and Toru promises to do the same next year. That night, Toru once again wakes up to find Julie in his bed. But when he notices she's crying and calling for her father in her sleep, he realizes how lonely she must be and stays by her side. The next day, the registration office for duos is packed, so Toru and Aoi decide to return later. On their way to class, Toru spots Julie asking Tamo to partner up and feels relieved. But later, on his way to register himself and Aoi as a duo, he meets Tamo alongside Miyabi and learns that Tamo had already agreed to form a duo with Miyabi, leaving Julie without a partner. Like a true homie, Aoi steps aside and gives Toru the chance to pair with her instead. Toru races through the campus looking for her everywhere and does not find her. Eventually, Toru finds her at the clock tower. He asks her why she didn't tell him what happened, and Julie replies that it didn't matter, as she figured he had already chosen Aoi. But Toru insists that she's the one he wants to team up with, and after a bit of convincing and a lot of riz, Julie agrees. They make their pledge under the falling light, blaze in hand, becoming an official duo. Later that evening, Julie once again curls up in Toru's bed. When he tells her to sleep in her own space, she confesses that she used to sleep beside her mother. Toru replies that he's not her mother, and Julie playfully says he gives off more of a big daddy energy anyway. With that, Toru decides to embrace the role and lets her stay. The following day, Rito-sensei gathers the class and gives them props for settling on their partners, then drops the big news that the much-anticipated Blaze mock battle is finally happening, called the New Blade Battle. Later on, Toru and Julie hit the training grounds, and it quickly becomes obvious who the powerhouse of the pair is. As while Julie's got finesse, Toru's struggling just to keep up with her. She points out his clumsy moves, and Toru blames his unfamiliarity with using a shield. Julie then walks him through a rhythm-based parry and counter technique with his fist, but Toru hesitates as his fists aren't soul weapons, and he worries about doing real damage. Elsewhere, Toru runs into Miyabi mid-lap on the track. She pushes herself so hard she collapses, and Toru carries her off in classic knight in sweaty armor fashion while feeling her cream melons on his back. She throws a fit, not wanting to be carried, but after realizing his intentions are pure, she allows him to escort her to the infirmary. Curious, Toru asks why she's pushing herself to the brink. Miyabi admits that she wants to pull her weight for Tamo, as she's not top tier at academics or athletics, but ever since she discovered her compatibility with Lucifer, she swore to give it everything she had. Toru admires her dedication and tells her, in his own awkward way, to keep working hard so maybe one day she'll reach the strength of her dreams. That night, in his sleep, Toru dreams of his dark, fiery past of a man with his sword, causing him to wake up terrified. Morning arrives, and so does the big event, a full-on blaze free for all in the northern section of the academy. The rules are simple: fight how you want, and win how you can. Toru and Julie choose the direct route, activating their blazes right from the jump and charging headfirst into the fray. They quickly clash with another duo, but Julie's elegant swordplay and Toru's unconventional shield tactics secure them a solid win. They carve a path through the battlefield, toppling team after team until only a handful of competitors remain. With time running out, they swing by the academy building and bump into Tamo, who's already waiting with her wicked chain weapon at the ready. In the middle of the battle, Miyabi joins the chaos, wielding a massive lance that looks like it's carrying her more than the other way around. She charges Toru, but quickly tires out against his shield. Toru fends her off and admits that had she kept her blaze active just a bit longer, he'd have been toast. Meanwhile, Julie makes quick work of Tamo, reading her moves like a book and pinning her down without breaking a sweat. Despite the loss, both girls walk away with their heads high and a newfound resolve to get stronger. Julie then realizes time's running low. Toru proposes that they find Aoi and challenge him to a final showdown. But before they can track him down, a scream cuts through the air. They rush over to find Aoi and his partner Tatsu already defeated horribly. Rito-sensei arrives at the scene, acting like she's worried, but something's off. Aoi warns Toru that Rito's more unhinged and terrifying than my ex on her period, and before they can react, she unleashes her blaze on them. She clips Toru, drawing blood, and coolly explains that when a blaze is used with deadly intent, it can harm the body and take lives. Then, in a twisted flex, she shatters Aoi's blaze, claiming that breaking someone's soul weapon is more excruciating than getting pegged by a goth mommy. Rito reveals that her mission is to eliminate high-potential students, and the 4 of them are on her hit list. Despite their best efforts, Rito outclasses them with ease, throwing them around like ragdolls. Rito tells them that weaklings should just die, and it reminds Toru of his dark past. Out of anger, he blasts her with his fist, but ends up destroying a classroom, missing Rito entirely. The battle continues with Toru and Julie getting pushed back, and Julie tells Toru their only shot is to land a guaranteed hit. That's when Toru remembers the parry counter combo Julie taught him. He pulls Rito in to keep attacking him, forcing her to get closer, and in that moment, Toru calls for Julie. With her backup, he charges his fist attack, and Rito backs away, thinking she is out of reach, but to her shock, Toru aims for her blaze, and his fist breaks her it, knocking her out cold and ending the threat. By the next day, both Toru and Julie are bandaged up and recovering over tea. Julie tells him Rito has been detained, and they've earned some peace for now. Toru, however, is still haunted by unanswered questions, like who gave her the order in the first place. Injured and unable to lift a cup, Toru accepts Julie's help, until she trips and ends up falling right on top of him. In that moment, Tamo and Miyabi walk in, snacks in hand, and immediately assume Toru's trying to do the dirty with Julie, despite his busted limbs. Later that night, Toru once again dreams the same nightmare and wakes up to Julie worrying by his side. He steps out onto the balcony for some air. Julie joins him, bringing up the name Otoha, which Toru had muttered in his sleep, along with a chilling vow to make him pay. Toru keeps silent, unwilling to talk, but Julie connects the dots. She shows him a large scar across her back and quietly admits that she, too, has someone to settle the score with. Somewhere in the woods, Lilith swims in the lake with her presence and assets, both impossible to ignore, and casually tells her ever-loyal butler, Sarah, that she's heading out to meet Toru, since he shares the same rare trait as her. Elsewhere, Toru wakes up in a haze, trying to figure out whether last night was real or just a vivid fever dream, until his hand accidentally finds itself clinging to Julie's flat board. When she stirs awake, Toru freaks out and babbles an apology, blaming it all on the almighty script the plot gods wrote for him. He insists he didn't know she had snuck into his bed, and Julie explains that after opening up about her past to him, she felt lonely and crawled in beside him. Later, they meet up with Tamo and Miyabi and stroll into class, only to find Aoi and Tatsu already there. Toru questions their early arrival, but Aoi tries to play it off, saying how a Chad like him doesn't get affected by his wounds. Tamo isn't having it and brings up the injuries they suffered in the previous brawl. Aoi's caught off guard by how much she knows, and Toru reveals that Tamo and Miyabi was the only ones who came to their aid post-fight. Aoi and Tatsu give a respectful bow, but Toru starts acting like he just saw a caveman learn basic manners for the first time, as Aoi has never bowed to anyone before. They begin speculating why Rito went full berserker on them, but Toru argues there's no use thinking about it as she's probably long gone. However, Rito herself suddenly strolls into class like nothing ever happened, surprising the gang. After her lecture, the group tries to confront her in the hallway, but she plays dumb. Before things escalate, Sakuya arrives and invites everyone to her office, revealing that she's reinstated Rito as a teacher. Toru, understandably, brings up the fact that she literally tried to send them to meet Ace, but Sakuya waves it off, explaining that Rito's value to the academy outweighs her minor attempt at committing homicide. She insists Rito has a crucial role in reaching the absolute duo, and informs them that they will face a level advancement ritual. Just then, a chopper touches down in the courtyard, and out steps Lilith, accompanied by Sarah, ready to pay Toru a visit. Later in class, Toru is visibly on edge with Rito teaching, knowing full well she once tried to send him to the Shadow Realm. The lesson covers power boosts and blaze-level special abilities, where the contrast between them is as stark as night and day. Suddenly, the busty blonde, Lilith, barges into the class unannounced, walks up to Toru, and inquires about his unique blaze. She politely asks Rito if she can borrow him, but Aoi finds it sketchy and demands to know what's going on. Lilith brushes him off and, intrigued, Toru agrees to hear her out. Back at Lilith's place, Sarah brings out snacks and tea, and Lilith wastes no time in asking Toru to become her duo immediately. Toru reminds her that he's already paired with Julie, but Lilith dismisses that minor detail, bragging that she delivers a better Hawk-Tua. She explains how she caught wind of his abilities back in England and jumped through hoops to transfer in, all so she could team up with him. Toru reminds her that the academy doesn't allow duo switching, but Lilith's main character syndrome kicks in, saying that rules don't apply to her. She confidently awaits his answer, but Toru turns her down in favor of staying with Julie. As he walks away, Lilith cheekily warns that he's passing up some prime Mia Khalifa level plot development, but Toru walks off, saying that he's not interested in a hoe. That night, Rito makes Toru run laps as punishment for ditching class, each one clocking in at 4 kilometers. Later, he's decompressing in the bath when Julie knocks to let him know he forgot his towel. Afterward, while sipping tea together, she asks if they can share a bed again. Toru, haunted by his earlier accidental squeeze, panics and quickly invites her on a platonic date instead. Julie agrees and suggests a shopping trip, as she's been stuck in the same shirt since the start. Toru thinks he successfully dodged the sleepover request, only for Julie to double down and ask to sleep beside him again, leaving him wondering why he even tried. The next day, on the way to the mall, Toru recalls asking Miyabi for date advice. When he invited her to join, she panicked, thinking he was asking her out, and bailed before her heart exploded. At the mall, Toru and Julie get briefly separated by the crowd, but he manages to find her again, prompting her to grab his hand for safety, completely unaware that Tamo and Miyabi are tailing them like nosy rom-com detectives. At a clothing shop, Julie heads into the changing room, and while the store clerk assumes she's Toru's girlfriend, he doesn't exactly deny it. Julie steps out in a new outfit, making both Toru and the shop clerk blush. Encouraged, the clerk hands her more clothes, and Julie happily tries them all, buying every single one just because Toru said she looked good in them. They spend the afternoon strolling through the mall, eventually sitting down for ice cream. When Toru offers her a spoonful of his rum raisin, Julie opens her mouth, expecting him to feed her. He obliges, and she feeds him in return, folding him like a lawn chair. The alcohol hits her hard, and while Toru tries to rein her in, Tamo and Miyabi watch from afar, questioning whether these two are just friends or friends with benefits.
Okay.
Suddenly, some lowlife punks show up looking for trouble. Tamo tries to walk away, uninterested, but one guy grabs Miyabi's wrist. Tamo steps in, ready to rearrange their facial structure. Toru spots the scuffle and rushes in to de-escalate, but the thugs think he's just trying to flex for the ladies. Before things go south, Lilith arrives like a queen descending from Olympus, pulls out her blaze, which to everyone's surprise, is a full-on rifle, reminding these clowns of the Second Amendment, and effortlessly knocks the thugs out. After seeing that, Toru finally understands what she meant when she said she was an exception. Afterward, Toru accompanies the girls in an underwear shop, but when they accidentally show him their plots, they call him a degenerate, which leaves him frustrated. The next morning, Toru recounts the chaos to Tamo and Miyabi, both of whom are understandably stunned. Julie points out that blazes aren't typically meant to manifest as complex weapons, which explains why Lilith is walking around like she's packing the biggest ding-dong around. Meanwhile, in her dorm, Lilith is busy being a certified simp, with a table full of Toru's photos and dreams of bearing his offspring. Later, the squad receives a Luciful upgrade that powers them up, and while they might look the same on the outside, on the inside, they are stronger and faster. Toru then spots Miyabi casually beating her classmates in a poolside sprint, and after she demolishes the competition, he offers her a hand out of the water, sparking more than just wet clothes. She thanks him for always being there, but he reminds her it's all her own hard work. Tomo strolls up to back him up with his statement, while Rito points out how her melons have grown bigger, which Toru notices. The girls get embarrassed hearing that, and Tomo calls Toru a creep. Just then, Julie joins in and dives into the pool, and everyone expects a magical swim from her. But to their confusion, Julie doesn't pop up from the water. Toru realizes she's not swimming, but that she's drowning, and he immediately jumps in to rescue her. Turns out her last school didn't offer swimming lessons, and she figured she'd learn by watching them. It surprises everyone to see Julie not being good at something, but Tomo assures her that there's a first time for everything. Toru puts a towel over her head, urging her not to catch a cold, and as he walks off, Miyabi watches and wishes she were also allergic to swimming so that she could get the same treatment. Later that day, Julie asks Toru to teach her how to swim. As they stroll through the park, he spots Lilith sipping tea with Sarah and tells Julie to head on without him. Toru sits down with them and asks why she's skipping class, and she nonchalantly drops that she's already aced school and is only here for the vibes. Toru warns her she won't make friends that way, which unexpectedly touches her heart. He recalls how she saved the girls yesterday and wants to ask her something, but before Lilith can answer his question, she wants him to take her out first, and just then, a helicopter pops up. Meanwhile, Rito is steaming mad that Toru bailed on class again. His friends are starting to worry because he left without saying a word. Little do they know, Toru's out gallivanting at an amusement park called Death Newland with Lilith, who's ditched her usual aristocratic air and is now acting like a kid on their first trip to Disneyland. From surviving a volcano-themed roller coaster to snapping selfies with a giant mascot to taking pictures at a photo booth, Toru is mentally fried. But Lilith's not done. She drags him to a shooting gallery and absolutely crushes it with sniper-like precision, which amazes Toru. She explains her skill with guns comes from her hunting background, and they're basically part of her soul. That's why her blaze is a rifle, just like Toru's is a shield, where his need to protect others runs just as deep. After scoring big at the range, she skips away with an ugly plushie like she just won the lottery. Fireworks light up the sky, giving Toru the perfect chance to ask her the one thing that's been bugging him, which is why she whipped out her blaze in public. She says she was just flexing for her future duo partner, and once again pitches for the two of them to be an overpowered couple. But Toru, being a loyal Chad, shuts her down again.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
That night, he returns to the dorms but finds the door locked. Just then, Julie calls for him, and he leaps up to her like Spooderman. Sensing someone nearby, he pushes her gently against the wall to avoid detection. He apologizes for the late-night return, but Julie says she's just glad he's safe. Toru admits he was out with Lilith, who asked him to be her duo again. But he turned her down again, because he had already promised Julie he'd always protect her. Lilith wasn't thrilled and hit him with the classic anime girl slap of rejection before storming off. Julie listens, smiles softly, and thanks him for choosing her. She touches his cheek, and just when the moment gets sweet, she starts to sneeze. Toru suggests they go inside, but she wraps him in a warm hug instead and says they'll be warmer if they stay close, and he agrees. Elsewhere, Miyabi wonders if Toru made it back and starts undressing absent-mindedly for her bath, while her mind is still fully occupied by him. The next day, Rito lays down the law. Toru's punished again for skipping class, and she announces that there'll be an inter-class battle with the second years, but she informs them that there will be no duos. It's all solo fights, and the first years will face off against a select few upperclassmen. She brings them to the arena where the second years are training, casually dropping that some of them are on her level, making them realize that they're screwed without a solid strategy. While the others try to figure out how to avoid being turned into pancakes, Lilith strolls into the arena like a one-woman army and throws down a challenge to every second year in sight. The upperclassman feels cocky, until she pulls out her blaze rifle and bodies one of them. Chaos erupts. The whole arena turns into a Fortnite match, and Lilith eliminates them all like she's trying to unlock a secret ending. Sakuya watches, feeling both impressed and annoyed, then decides to salvage the wreckage of the planned event with a new idea. and that is for Lilith to fight the entire first-year class, and all they have to do is survive. Then, the battle starts, and the entire class takes refuge inside a massive shopping mall, turning the place into their own battleground hideout. Lilith begins the hunt, tracking them down one by one, but any attempt at ambushing her goes down in flames. Then, she comes face to face with Toru, ready to lay him out. But before fists or bullets fly, Toru takes a moment to apologize for ticking her off earlier. She scoffs, assuming he's trying to soften her up. Instead, he tells her to come at him with everything she's got, and maybe, after it's all over, they could be friends. Their duel kicks off, with Toru bobbing and weaving through bullets, managing to get close enough for some close-quarters action. Mid-battle, he casually asks why she needed to rent out an entire mall just for this fight. Lilith replies that an extraordinary party demands an extraordinary venue. As the two clash, the rest of the gang arrives to initiate their plan. Their ambush fails miserably, and Lilith praises them for their attempt, though it's pathetic. Lilith notes that this is the first real challenge she's had all day, but decides to let them off easy for now. She wants to finish things properly later. Regrouping, the team huddles to rethink their strategy. While Lilith entertains herself at the Sky Plaza, Tomo breaks down a plan to send 2 groups of 3. Once they arrive, it's a war zone. The plaza is littered with knocked-out students and no Lilith in sight, until she rises dramatically from a pile of unconscious bodies and takes out Tatsu with her rifle, as camouflage is another hunting skill she's mastered. Toru wastes no time jumping back into the fight, even though she insists she'd prefer to save him for last. As their clash continues, Lilith slips away again, warning that if he keeps chasing her, she will get serious. Julie tries to cut off her escape, but Lilith reads her like a book and drops her with ease, showing the difference in their level. She's about to go in for the finishing blow when Tomo steps in just in time to pull Julie to safety. While regrouping, Julie notices that Tomo is injured because of her and apologizes. Tomo brushes it off, saying that protecting friends comes naturally. But she's also quick to point out that Julie's clearly off her game today. Julie insists she's fine, though it's obvious she's not. They start to strategize, but with Tatsu out, both Tomo and Julie are wounded, and Miyabi's mighty lance is still too heavy for her to wield properly. The morale is low. Aoi groans about how frustrating Lilith is to fight because she's always so damn calm, and that's when a light bulb goes off in Toru's head. Later, while on watch duty, Toru is approached by Julie, who finally admits she's more rattled than usual. She confesses that even though Toru rejected Lilith, she's afraid this whole event will bring him closer to her and leave Julie in the background. Toru gives her a head pat and reassures her that she's the only one who knows how to truly revive his soul. Before the moment can get any more tender, Lilith shows up again, sneaking in without a sound thanks to her stealth skills. She calls the others out for a final showdown, but only Aoi steps up. As the 3-on-1 fight begins, Lilith manages to maneuver and handle all 3 of them. When facing Toru, she manages to shoot him, but Toru has her where he wants her and slams the ground with his shield, creating an opening by blasting the floor under her. Miyabi charges in with her lance, but Lilith uses it like a stepping stone, vaulting off it to take out both Aoi and Julie in a flash. Lilith declares her victory, but Toru tells her not to get too confident, as in that moment Julie rises again and slashes her weapon, revealing that she blocked Lilith's bullet using Tomo's chain weapon as makeshift armor. With Lilith finally cornered, the group has a real shot at victory. But before they can end it, a real bullet hits Toru's shoulder. Armed men storm the scene, led by a man named Kevin, who presents Julie with an invitation from someone known only as the equipment smith. Lilith refuses on the spot, pissed they crashed her event, but Kevin puts a bullet in her shoulder to get his point across. Either she comes with them, or she won't be leaving at all. Aoi and Julie rush in to stop them, but their attacks bounce off harmlessly. Kevin smirks and explains that Exceeds aren't the only ones who've surpassed humanity. To seal the deal, they take Miyabi hostage, forcing Lilith's hand. Reluctantly, she agrees to go, apologizing for not finishing her fight with Toru. But the team's not about to sit back and let one of their own get taken. Miyabi breaks down, blaming herself for being powerless, but Toru comforts her with a promise that they will bring Lilith back, and maybe she can thank them with something special when they do. Moments later, Toru intercepts the group on the escalator. Lilith warns him he's going to get himself killed, but he shrugs it off, saying that he still has a duel to finish with her. He charges his fist and slams it into the floor. For a moment, nothing happens, but then the entire mall explodes in a massive delayed shockwave. Amid the destruction, he grabs Lilith's hand, and both Julie and Aoi pop up to defeat the others, while Toru and Lilith team up to take Kevin down for good. After the dust settles, both are battered and bruised, but still standing. They agree to settle their duel one more time and go for it. Meanwhile, Kevin drags himself from the rubble, contacting his employer. Though defeated, he says the mission was a success as they've gathered enough data. His boss isn't too concerned with Lilith anymore. His real interest? A mysterious figure called the Blaze Witch. The next day, Toru's in the hospital, patched up and surrounded by his squad. Lilith drops by with a matching injury and reminds him of his promise that once they went all out, they could be friends. So she's here as a friend to thank him for saving her. She apologizes to the group for underestimating them and for slapping Toru. Then she turns to him with a playful smile and asks one more time if he'll be her duo partner. When he declines again, she kisses him on the cheek and declares that she'll just have to make him her husband instead, surprising everyone. While showering, Miyabi reflects on the incident at the battle, where she was held at gunpoint. The memory leaves her feeling like a burden to her friends. Tomo joins her in the shower, offering warmth and encouragement, reminding her that everyone cherishes the cheerful side of Miyabi. As Miyabi contemplates love, her thoughts drift toward Toru. Soon after, the students of the academy depart for a summer training camp on a remote island, traveling there by yacht. During the trip, Julie, overwhelmed by seasickness and the yacht's interior, rests her head on Toru's lap. Noticing her discomfort, Toru brings her outside for fresh air. The sea breeze soothes her, and she eventually falls asleep in his lap. Miyabi stumbles upon them and, flustered, slips as she takes a seat beside Toru, unintentionally pressing her melon against him. Just then, Aoi and Tatsu arrive, informing Toru that Rito is looking for him. Tomo joins them as well, searching for Miyabi. Though Miyabi steps forward, she feels conflicted about her growing feelings for Toru. Rito soon gathers the students for an announcement that they will swim to the island where they will train. While Toru questions the reasoning, Rito offers only a stern look. Aoi adds that Sakuya will be watching over them from the yacht. Suddenly, the yacht's floor opens beneath them, dropping everyone into the sea. Since Julie can't swim, Toru carries her through the water. At that moment, Lilith arrives by helicopter, quickly changing into a swimsuit and jumping in to join them. Teasing Toru with her appearance, she mocks Julie's inability to swim. Toru defends Julie as his partner, prompting Lilith to acknowledge his conviction before challenging him to a race. By the time they reach the beach, Toru is exhausted. Julie tries to dry her undergarments nearby, but Toru urges her to move to a more private spot. As he rests, Lilith shields him from the sun and leans in, playfully asking for a hot cardio session. Toru quickly retreats, only to notice Julie in distress near a cliff, as her undergarments have been blown away by the wind, leaving her flustered and embarrassed. Elsewhere, Miyabi and Tomo attempt to cross a river, but Miyabi slips and pulls Tomo in with her. Miyabi feels like she's holding her partner back, but Tomo reassures her, reminding her that their partnership was a choice. Back with the trio, as they venture further into the island, Toru offers his uniform to Lilith, who blushes at the gesture. Julie, feeling jealous, has a close call when her skirt is nearly torn by a branch. Suddenly, a kunai whizzes past them. The group immediately goes on high alert. Lilith suspects ninjas, but the assailants wield blazes, which to them is an unexpected twist. A battle breaks out. Lilith is nearly ambushed from behind, but Julie intervenes, saving her from meeting the Lord. They set aside their differences and decided to work together. Julie knocks down the trees to reveal the attackers. Intimidated by Julie's strength, the ninjas begin to retreat. Meanwhile, Toru engages one of them in a trap involving a massive falling log. He deflects it using his blaze and counterattacks, only to discover the ninja is actually Imari. She casually greets him and jokes about his hands landing on her milky plots.
You naughty, naughty.
The other attackers, now overwhelmed by Lilith and Julie, surrender. Back with the duo, Tomo fights off the attackers while Miyabi, temporarily trapped, hesitates. Remembering the Lilith incident, she finds her resolve and joins the battle. helping Tomo turn the tide and win their battle. That evening, the students regroup at a mansion on the island for rest and a shared meal. Imari explains to Toru that after her defeat, she was recruited into the school's branch division. Toru, surprised but happy to see her, shares stories from campus life. Julie soon confronts the two, prompting Toru to offer her a sausage, which surprises her with its size, and she starts imagining it's Toru's.
What did you say, nigga?
Lilith arrives with extra food and asks Toru to feed her. Julie intervenes, feeding Lilith herself. Toru later approaches Sakuya to apologize for misjudging her and thanks her for creating the branch school. Sakuya replies with her true aim, which is to guide Toru toward becoming an absolute duo. Elsewhere, Tomo, impressed by Miyabi's strength, thanks her for the support. Flustered, Tomo leaves to get food and accidentally runs into Toru. He praises Miyabi's bravery, and she reveals that her strength came from him. As their friends call out to them, Miyabi quietly realizes that she may have feelings for Toru. Meanwhile, in a hidden laboratory, Edward and Kevin discuss a secret project. Edward tasks Kevin with discreet oversight as they near its completion, an experiment eagerly awaited by those in power, codenamed Selection. Still on the summer island, Toru wakes up drenched in sweat inside his tent. As he opens his eyes, he's shocked to find both Lilith and Julie, both without plot armor, both sticking to his body like they have just bumped bellies with him. He panics at the compromising scene just as Tomo enters the tent to wake them. She freezes, stunned to see Toru sandwiched between the two girls, leaving him flustered and thoroughly embarrassed. Later, under the scorching sun at the beach, the group gathers. Toru, still reeling from the morning's chaos, is approached by Tomo. She bows and offers a sincere apology, explaining that Lilith and Julie already clarified the misunderstanding. Toru blushes, especially with everyone watching. Soon after, Lilith, Imari, Julie, and Miyabi join them. Julie begins retelling the tent incident to Imari, but Miyabi quickly interrupts, suggesting they regroup before Rito comes looking for them. Toru silently thanks Miyabi for saving him from further embarrassment. Their training camp activities begin with swimming. In the water, Toru carries Julie and turns red, flustered by how the girls' soaked uniforms looked on their plotful bodies. The group then embarks on a mountain trek, a cooking session, and more activities, where Miyabi reflects on her growing feelings. Falling for Toru has ignited a warm, unfamiliar happiness inside her. That evening, Rito announces it's the final day of their island trip and grants everyone free time. Lilith immediately proposes a flirtatious activity, rubbing their skin together, but Julie intervenes, pushing her away. Amid the awkward tension, Miyabi invites Toru to spend some time together. Though he doubts there's anything left to do, she simply wants to go to the beach. The next morning, Toru arrives early, finding himself the only guy among the group. Julie surprises him, looking adorable in her swimsuit, which makes him blush. The others, Lilith, Tomo, Imari, Rito, and Miyabi, arrive soon after, each in their own swimwear, all looking goon-worthy. Toru is taken aback and mentally rates their outfits. Imari's is sporty, Lilith's elegant, and Tomo's graceful, making her blush. When Miyabi shyly shows hers, the others cheer her on. Distracted by her creamy figure, Toru nervously gives her top marks, making her fold as well. As they head toward the beach, Rito lingers behind and playfully demands a rating too. Toru jokes that she looks the same as always, prompting her to laugh and ruffle his hair. Nearby, Imari, Tomo, and Miyabi watch the exchange. Miyabi's slight jealousy doesn't go unnoticed by Imari, who begins to suspect deeper feelings. Beach games ensue, where plots are jelly and cheeks are wet. During a mishap, Toru accidentally pulls off Tomo's swimsuit top, and later, while swimming, a wave strips Julie's top. She quickly hugs Toru from behind to cover herself, and as they walk to retrieve her top, Lilith arrives, adding to the awkwardness. Miyabi, watching, feels a pang of jealousy. Imari, observing everything, asks Tomo about Miyabi, who notes that while Miyabi seems happier, there's an underlying unease. That evening, the group visits an onsen near the mountains. Toru relaxes alone on the male side, overhearing the girls chatting about their figures. Rito teases Miyabi about her F-cup, which Tomo defends, only to become the target of playful teasing herself from Rito and Julie. Lilith joins the playful comparison. The mood shifts when Imari directly asks Miyabi about her feelings for Toru. Caught off guard, Miyabi listens as Emori points out how her gaze always lingers on him, and how she has rivals in the form of Lilith, Rito, Tomo, and especially Julie. Miyabi admits that Julie feels impossible to compete with as she's kind, strong, and deeply connected to Toru. Turning the tables, Miyabi questions Emori's own feelings. Emori confesses that she and Toru connected on the first day, but chose to stay just friends due to being at the branch school. She encourages Miyabi to confess her feelings and not live with regret. As they leave the onsen, Miyabi, lost in thought, stumbles. Emori tells Toru to carry her to prevent another fall. Later, she gathers the other girls and leads them away, giving Toru and Miyabi a chance to be alone. While walking, Toru recalls a time when Miyabi collapsed during a school run. She smiles, saying his encouragement always made her happy, and now she wants more of that happiness. As they reach the beach at sunset, Miyabi asks him to put her down. There, she confesses her love. Toru is clearly moved but gently turns her down. He explains that while he values her feelings, they haven't had enough time to truly connect. More importantly, he fears his own dark past and emotional scars could hurt her. Heartbroken and embarrassed, Miyabi runs away. Elsewhere, back at the branch school, Lilith shares tea with Sakuya. Noticing Lilith's unusual contentment, Sakuya is puzzled. Lilith admits she's come to enjoy her time at school, even as she strives to become an absolute duo. She warns Sakuya, who is the Blaze Diabolica, that their enemy, Rain, will attack them that night. But Sakuya warns her that she and the students at the branch school will act as a sacrifice against Rain, so Toru and the others can fight back to achieve absolute duo. At midnight, the students are under attack by Edward's Equipment Smith's Corps. Julie and Tomo, among the Academy's strongest fighters, leap into action to defend their classmates. Aoi quickly notices something disturbing. The enemy soldiers are significantly stronger than before. As Tomo directs Emori and Miyabi to tend to the injured, she's alarmed when a soldier she just defeated begins to rise again. Inside the school office, Lilith, Rito, and Sakuya observe the worsening situation. The soldiers are overwhelming the students, most of whom are too inexperienced for battle at this level. Sakuya, already suspecting Edward's involvement, concludes he must have obtained intel on the first selection process. Lilith hopes for reinforcements from the main campus, but Sakuya reveals that it, too, is under siege. With no alternatives, Sakuya gives Rito the go-ahead to intervene. Ecstatic at the opportunity to finally unleash her full power, Rito receives a stimulant injection that activates her blaze full power. Reinvigorated, she charges into the battlefield. Outside, the fighting intensifies. Emori rescues a fallen student while Miyabi and Aoi regroup with Tomo as they become surrounded. Suddenly, Toru and Julie arrive, knocking back several attackers and giving the defenders a much-needed breather. Julie, seething with fury over the destruction, vows not to forgive the invaders. Just then, maniacal laughter erupts from the rooftop, and Rito appears, thrilled to finally show off in front of the others. She descends in a flash, obliterating soldiers as she lands. Unrestrained and in her element, Rito launches into a ferocious rampage. One horrified soldier calls her an exception and urges his comrades to eliminate her. With her blaze at full strength, she showcases what a blaze can do in level 4, which surprises everyone with the amount of damage it does. Amid the chaos, she addresses the students, explaining that a true connection between a wielder and their blaze enhances its power. She then commands the students to retreat, promising to handle the remaining enemies herself. Toru and Julie watch in disbelief as neither has ever seen Rito at full power. After she single-handedly defeats a squad of soldiers, Toru realizes she had been holding back during training. Julie urges him to help the others while Rito keeps the enemy at bay, but Tomo suddenly rushes in, asking if they've seen Miyabi, as she's missing. Back in the school office, Rito receives word that the main campus has successfully defended itself. But before they can relax, Kevin and his elite soldiers burst in. He's come for Sakuya, the Blaze Diabolical. As Kevin attempts to take her by force, Lilith steps in to protect her. A soldier fires at Lilith, but she deflects the shot with her blaze. It quickly becomes clear that the attacks on both campuses were just diversions, and Kevin's real target was Sakuya all along. Lilith, though outnumbered, holds her ground and eliminates several of Kevin's men. But when Kevin fires a massive energy beam, the resulting explosion levels the office. Toru and his friends witness the blast from afar. Tomo, still worried about Miyabi, urges Toru to investigate. He and Julie race to the ruins and find Lilith badly injured after she had shielded Sakuya and her assistant from the blast. Despite her injuries, Lilith insists she's fine and pleads with Toru to save Sakuya, who has been abducted. Toru and Julie rush to the harbor, arriving just in time to leap aboard the boat where Kevin is holding Sakuya. Kevin offers them a chance to surrender and jump overboard. Julie refuses as she can't swim, and Toru stands his ground, determined to keep his promise. The battle begins, and Julie attacks first, but Kevin easily dodges. Toru manages to land a punch, surprising Kevin with his strength. Working together, Julie distracts Kevin long enough for Toru to land a full-powered blow that sends him staggering. But Kevin recovers, activating advanced armor and turning the tide. He hurls Julie aside and wounds Toru, stabbing him through the feet and pinning him down. When Kevin raises his sword to finish Julie, Toru blocks it with his bare hands, determined to protect her at any cost. Kevin, reminded of a similar promise he once failed to keep, snaps. Enraged, he stabs Toru in the hand and mocks his weakness, demanding he repeat his promise. As Toru writhes in pain, Julie flashes back to the moment her father died, when she was helpless to save him. The memory fuels her resolve. She unleashes her full power and attacks Kevin with blinding speed, slashing him relentlessly and sending him flying across the boat. Lost in rage, she nearly turns her blade on Toru, but his voice breaks through. She hears his voice and collapses from exhaustion. Kevin, bloodied but impressed, rises again. He tells Toru he'll never be strong enough to protect anyone. Just then, he receives a call from Edward that the mission is complete. Surprised but obedient, Kevin prepares to retreat. He exchanges names with Toru before leaping into the sea, promising they'll meet again, and next time, he'll send him off to meet the Lord. At the branch school, the students begin tending to the wounded and cleaning up the aftermath. In the office, Sakuya reveals to Lilith that she was not the true target of the mission. Then, the phone rings. Lilith answers, and her expression hardens. They've received an invitation to the Rain Conference, and calmly, Sakuya admits she had anticipated this all along. Later, Julie opens up to Toru and tells him about how her father, who is a hometown hero, died in a battle with a man, and that same man gave Julie the scar on her back. She tells Toru that she wanted to become stronger, so she entered this academy, but she feels that she still needs Toru to protect her. But Toru assures her that they have to protect each other as they are a duo. Meanwhile, Edward manages to lure Miyabi into his lair, and because Miyabi wanted to be strong for Toru, Edward promises her that if she follows him, he will make her wish come true.
Women.
The morning after the battle, Tomo, Julie, and Toru are still deeply troubled by Miyabi's disappearance. They search every corner of the island but find no trace of her. Just as they're about to give up, Julie insists on checking one last location with Toru. But their path is blocked by Rito, who sternly informs them that Sakuya has given strict orders that no one is allowed to leave. When they try to protest, Rito threatens to stop them by force. With no other option, they return to the yacht. As the ship pulls away, Toru stands beside Julie, watching the island recede into the distance. He's weighed down by guilt, blaming himself for Miyabi's disappearance. On the upper deck, Sakuya observes them in silence. Days pass. Back at the academy, life resumes. Training continues, but the mood remains heavy. During sparring practice, Toru faces off against Tomo under the watchful eyes of their classmates. Tomo easily gains the upper hand. She pins Toru in a chokehold, but his mind drifts again, this time because her gel-o is pressed against his face, making it impossible to focus. Rito mocks him from the sidelines. Embarrassed, Tomo quickly lets go before hurting him. Hoping to snap him out of it, Tomo challenges him to another round. After training, Tomo heads to the showers. As she reaches for a towel, she instinctively calls out to Miyabi, but only to remember she's not there. A memory surfaces of Miyabi, exhausted after a morning run, resting in the same locker room. Tomo lingers under the warm water, lost in thought. Lilith walks in and quietly observes her. Meanwhile, in class, the students gossip about Miyabi. Most assume she's recovering in a hospital after the battle. Toru, however, remains visibly anxious. Suddenly, Lilith sneaks up behind him and covers his eyes. Toru guesses her identity based on the size of her melons and gets it right. Lilith flirts playfully until Julie does the same. Toru, unfazed, correctly identifies her flatboard too. Then Tomo walks in, and Lilith surprises her with some plotful touches. While Lilith admires her softness, Tomo is clearly uncomfortable. Toru concludes that this is just Lilith's odd way of showing affection. They all head to class together, trying to resume normalcy. That night, Toru dreams of Miyabi standing alone on a beach. In the dream, he rejects her, and to his surprise, she calls him weak. Suddenly, Kevin appears, slashing Miyabi across the back. Kevin mocks Toru's helplessness, triggering a buried memory of his sister being cut down by a shadowy figure in the past. Toru jolts awake, heart pounding. Julie wakes up too, and seeing his distress, gently hugs him, just as her mother used to do when she was grieving her father. The next day, Sakuya summons Toru to her office to thank him for saving her. She offers him a drug that would enhance his strength, as his blaze is considered special. Though tempted, Toru initially refuses. Sakuya presses him, referencing the trauma of his past. Toru wrestles with the fear of becoming like the man who clapped his sister dead. In the end, he declines, but Sakuya still gives him the vial, telling him to use it only when he's ready. Before he leaves, she tells him about the upcoming RAIN conference, where Edward, the mastermind behind the attack on the summer camp, will be present. Then, Toru returns to his dorm feeling uneasy, and Julie greets him warmly and offers apple tea to lift his spirits. The next day, the academy is placed under lockdown for the conference. Aoi and Tomo, among the school's top students, are assigned to guard the perimeter alongside a group of overconfident graduates. Rito watches from the rooftop, unimpressed by their arrogance. One of the graduates assures Tomo that they can handle any threat. Elsewhere, Lilith stakes out a position near the building where the conference is set to begin. Toru and Julie find her and ask about the event. Lilith tries not to answer, but decides to tell him, mentioning Edward's goal to achieve the absolute duo. Toru recalls hearing Sakuya mention the same term during the academy's opening ceremony. Suspicious, he begins to wonder if both Sakuya and Lilith are hiding something, but he chooses to trust them for now. Inside the conference hall, Sakuya greets several high-ranking people who appreciate and respect her leadership. Then Edward arrives. Wasting no time, he proposes an alliance between his corps and Sakuya's academy. She instantly refuses, mocking him for his expulsion and hinting at his murky ties to his grandparents. She accuses him of using this alliance as a front for personal revenge. Edward, clearly expecting cooperation, is rattled by her rejection. With no other option, he challenges her to a game of death between his enhanced soldiers versus her students, and the side that completely wipes out the other will be declared the winner. Without hesitation, Sakuya accepts. Edward presses a button, and the alarms blare across campus. Graduates guarding the perimeter receive emergency notifications. Overhead, aircraft fill the sky, releasing wave after wave of Edward's soldiers onto the academy grounds, led by none other than Kevin. Both sides receive information about the game of death, and both sides go face to face. Suddenly, to Tomo and the others' shock, Miyabi pops up and declares herself against Toru, to show him how stronger she has become. Her sudden appearance shocks Tomo and the others, seeing that this isn't the Miyabi they knew. She stands reborn, powerful and vengeful. The graduates rush to shield the students, but they're no match for her. With a single burst of her blaze, she sends them flying. She reveals Kevin as the one who granted her this god-slaying power, all for the sake of exacting revenge on Toru. Watching from the conference room, Edward proudly displays his creation to Sakuya. She, however, remains composed, calmly sipping her tea. Miyabi charges at Toru, but Julie reacts instantly, pushing him out of harm's way. Standing between them, she declares she'll protect Toru, even if it means fighting someone she once called a friend. Tomo, Aoi, Lilith, Julie, and Toru summon their blaze, ready to confront the new threat. Kevin steps forward, explaining that Miyabi is the result of Edward's twisted research, a hybrid of an Exceed and a unit. He touches Miyabi possessively like a creep, drawing disgusted reactions from Tomo and Toru. Enraged, Tomo lashes out, forcing Kevin to back off. She approaches Miyabi gently, asking if she's being controlled, and assures her they're still here for her. But Miyabi, cold and mistrusting, strikes Tamo hard, launching her across the field. Laughing, Miyabi mocks Tamo's weakness and naivety. Lilith suggests she's been brainwashed, but Kevin corrects her, saying that Miyabi isn't under any influence. Her power is her own. Since the summer camp, when Toru rejected her confession, Miyabi has sought strength to protect him, to never feel helpless again. Kevin cruelly reminds Toru of that moment, fueling the guilt in his mind. Toru, furious, charges at Kevin, but Miyabi intercepts and attacks him instead. Her strikes overwhelm him. She demands to know why he looks at everyone but her blaze raining down in relentless waves. Toru barely holds his defense. His friends try to coordinate a counterattack, but Miyabi overpowers them all, determined to prove she no longer needs their protection. She declares that after Toru's rejection, she swore to become strong enough to stay by his side forever. Toru pleads with her to stop and that this path isn't right, but she keeps coming. Tamo, badly injured, realizes that Miyabi's blaze now carries lethal intent and that the gentle Miyabi she once knew seems lost. Kevin claps sarcastically at their touching reunion before turning to leave, off to see Sakuya. Toru tries to follow, but Miyabi blocks his path. Tamo forces herself up and tackles Miyabi, giving the others a chance to help Sakuya. Toru hesitates, not wanting to abandon her, but Tamo insists that because Miyabi is her partner, her duet, only she can reach her. Meanwhile, at the conference, Edward boasts that Miyabi is his greatest success, created from her desire for strength and molded into the perfect weapon. He demands Sakuya's surrender, but Sakuya scoffs, accusing him of exploiting a student for his warped ambitions. The other dignitaries side with her, laughing at Edward's hubris. Elsewhere, Toru, Julie, Lilith, and Aoi race toward the conference building, but are ambushed by Edward's soldiers. Lilith and Aoi hold the line, giving Toru and Julie time to break through. Inside, Kevin awaits. He greets them with mocking disappointment. His true target isn't Sakuya, but it's Toru. He wants him broken, to witness his loved ones die one by one. Julie steps forward, unwavering, reminding Kevin of her vow to protect Toru. Back on the battlefield, Tamo and Miyabi remain locked in fierce combat. Tamo refuses to retreat, determined to stop Miyabi from hurting anyone else. Miyabi grows frustrated. Tamo urges her to abandon the power she borrowed, insisting that true strength must be earned. Miyabi screams that all she wants is to be with Toru, unleashing another attack, and confesses again that she's in love with him. Tamo, overwhelmed, realizes she never truly understood Miyabi's feelings. Miyabi reveals the rejection that fueled her transformation. Though not experienced in love, Tamo does her best to reason with her, assuring Miyabi that Toru would never want her to hurt others or lose herself in the process. She thanks Miyabi for everything she's done and promises to always stay by her side. Suddenly, Tamo gives her the Will Smith, not in anger, but to snap her out of the illusion. Her words reach Miyabi. The false power surging through her begins to crumble. Tears stream down Miyabi's face as she falls to her knees. Tamo catches her, and the two collapse in each other's arms, crying, relieved, broken, but together again. Back inside the conference hall, Kevin battles Toru and Julie. He taunts them, accusing them of abandoning their friend. But suddenly, he stiffens as Miyabi's spell has been broken. Toru smiles, saying that he knew and believed Tamo could bring her back. Infuriated, Kevin hurls a kunai at Julie. It explodes on impact, sending her crashing to the ground. Toru, panicked, rushes to her side. Kevin relishes his agony and summons his soldiers. They open fire on Toru. Julie regains consciousness to find Toru shielding her, bleeding from multiple gunshot wounds. Kevin sneers, calling him weak. But Toru pulls out the vial that Sakuya once gave him, the power-enhancing drug, all to protect what's precious to him. He injects it just as another volley of bullets rains down. His blaze erupts in a surge of energy, vaporizing the bullets mid-air. At that moment, Lilith and Aoi arrive and swiftly dispatch the remaining soldiers. Surrounded, Kevin prepares for one last stand, but Toru doesn't hesitate. He unleashes his full strength and knocks Kevin out cold. Edward, watching everything collapse, realizes he's lost. The conference members scoff, and Sakuya turns her back on him, calling him a disgrace. Outside, Toru, Julie, Lilith, and Aoi regroup. Edward appears, searching for Kevin. Finding him unconscious, he lashes out, blaming him for their defeat and kicking him in the stomach. but Kevin suddenly stirs. With cold eyes, he stabs Edward in the gut. He lifts Edward's final weapon and turns to Toru, eyes burning with rage. With nothing left to lose, Kevin prepares to unleash his vengeance, but this time with everything Edward left behind. Toru, Julie, Lilith, and Aoi exited the conference building, finally able to breathe after defeating Kevin and his soldiers. But just as relief washed over them, a voice called out to them, "It's Kevin." He stood tall, and without hesitation, Aoi lunged at him. Kevin caught her blaze mid-swing and crushed it with his bare hand, collapsing him instantly. Lilith attacked next, but Kevin vanished in a blur and reappeared point blank, driving a brutal kick into her stomach. Kevin raised his weapon and unleashed a devastating beam, reducing the conference building to rubble, with only Toru and Julie remaining standing. Kevin soared into the air, his weapon blazing as he fired relentlessly. His attacks grazed both of them, pushing Toru into a spiral of panic. When Kevin targeted Julie, Toru blocked with his blaze, but the force of the impact sent him crashing into the Academy's clock tower. Kevin hovered above, mocking him for needing a girl to help him get stronger, but Toru, struggling to stand, claps back, saying that Julie is his duo. Seizing the moment, Julie launched a surprise attack, but Kevin dodged effortlessly, barely moving. Together, she and Toru struck again and again, but Kevin shrugged them off with ease, treating them like pests. He looked over the Academy with disdainful admiration, making it his next target, and shot at it. Toru pleads to Kevin, reminding him that he also has people to protect, but Kevin coldly declares that he wants nothing but power. He charges his weapon again, aiming it at the school. Toru screams for him to stop, but just in time, Rito appears, blocking the beam with her blaze. She succeeds, but the blast leaves her critically injured. Students cheer her bravery, but Rito, bleeding heavily, turns to Toru, telling him to finish it. Kevin resumes the assault. Julie retaliates, landing a blow that cracks part of his weapon. The explosion injures her, but she brushes it off, assuring Toru she's fine. Kevin fires again, and Toru shields her from afar, but Kevin suddenly appears behind him and drives his blade into Toru's back. Julie screams for him, begging Toru to get back up. Thinking that Toru is dead, rage consumes her. A dark power erupts from within. Kevin laughs, seeing her true power, feeling impressed by it. Julie launches into a furious assault. Kevin, caught off guard, begins to falter. Her strikes grow more powerful with each hit, chipping away at his armor. He tries to retreat, but her energy keeps growing. He feels fear seeing Juliet's power and refuses to lose and to back down. They clash. Julie's rage fuels her blows, and Kevin's armor begins to crumble. The two crash to the ground, both exhausted. Toru stirs. He sees Julie, her eyes clouded by vengeance, preparing to deliver a final blow. He staggers to his feet and rushes toward her. When he tries to stop her, the two of them clash in a battle of two blazes, the unstoppable force against the immovable object. But unlike Julie, Toru realizes that both of their desire for vengeance are wrong. He tells Julie that, because of her, he found someone whom he wants to protect again, which makes his shield stronger, and he promises to protect her. He opens his defense, and Julie stabs him in the shoulder. He calls out for her, reminding her of her duo, and his voice cuts through the fog. He wraps his arms around her, telling her that he's still alive and begs for her to come back. Her breathing slows, and the darkness fades from her eyes. Kevin snarls at his promise, saying how he reminds him of his brother, who made promises he couldn't keep. He rises one last time and fires another beam. But Toru and Julie stand united, combining their souls and blazes to form a radiant barrier that completely neutralizes the blast. Kevin refuses to believe it, and Toru tells him that alone, he can't defeat him, but with Julie by his side, as a duo, they can. Kevin prepares another shot, and Toru tries to summon his blaze, but nothing happens. In that moment, Julie tosses him her sword, telling him to use it. Toru grabs the weapon and charges. With one decisive strike, he shatters Kevin's armor and weapon. With that, Kevin collapses, and the battle is over. The next day, Toru lies in the hospital. Miyabi and the others gather at his bedside. Tears in her eyes, Miyabi apologizes. Toru smiles, saying that they have all become stronger. Days later, Toru shares tea with Lilith, just like old times. She tells him more about Kevin, how he lost his brother, how his family fell apart, and how he was raised to be a soldier. Toru asks her why she's telling him that, and Lilith doesn't answer. But Toru understands. He nods, quietly thankful. She suddenly adds that Julie's already out of the hospital. Toru jumps to his feet excited, and Lilith feels jealous seeing him excited over another woman. But Lilith encourages him to meet her. Sakuya steps out of the shadows behind her and tells Lilith the reason she wants Toru to see Kevin's file is so he can understand Kevin's pain and that his soul could grow, and so her vision of the absolute duo could become real one day. Meanwhile, Toru finds Julie at the clock tower, and she isn't surprised to see him. There, she opens her heart, saying how her power didn't come from the medicine, but that it came from trauma. From watching my father die, she feels afraid that he would leave her if he knew. But Toru steps closer, apologizing for pushing her to unleash that power. He meets her eyes, asking her if she would continue being his duo, and Julie nods. Together, they cross their blades, renewing their vow to grow stronger, to protect each other, until death separates them. If you watch this anime recap until the end, comment down 2 souls, 1 duo. If you like anime recaps like this, watch this video.